welcome back to another episode of Who Am I to Judge podcast. I'm Alexis.
And I am Samantha.
What's
Welcome
up
back,
with you?
everybody. Nothing. Just trying to get our tech to date and get us going and sounding good. Just got home from work. Jupiter's looking at me. And I'm hoping for a good show. How about you? How are you?
Watching WNBA. Workout class was good. Can't complain. We have so much to talk about today.
Yes, we did see each other this weekend.
Oh yeah, we did. Not Mello. Samantha babysitted Mello, which was life-saving. And I had my cousin's baby shower. Oh, and I had a great time at Shahani, so it's really great.
Yes. So we don't usually see each other because Alexis is in New York, if you don't know, and I am in DC. But you are right. We have so much to talk about today, so let's just get to
it. Who is on trial?
Well, we obviously have to talk about the person that is actually on trial or will be on trial, which is P. Diddy Sean Combs. Let's use his real government name. But we do have, a lot has happened since last week that maybe we should, kind of recap before we get into the Diddy stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. What do you want to recap?
Well, when we were hopping off last week, we were about to watch the debate. So that has happened. There's been so much happens in a fucking week. Like there's been another assassination attempt. The debate happened. Like there's just so much happening all the time. So yeah, what did you think about the debate? We don't have to stay too long on that. But.
I mean, just kind of what everybody else thought. Kamala won, Trump didn't. And I think she will win the election. And yeah, it was cut and dry, like pretty much. I feel like it was cut and dry.
Isn't it so crazy how the debate is old news now? It's like
was it 2 weeks ago maybe, or was it literally last week?
It was just last Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When Trump was talking about eating dogs and stuff. So yeah, we move on.
Kamala won. I feel like there's no real news. Kamala won, Trump didn't, and he said outrageous things like we knew. The assassination attempt was interesting because they didn't they caught the person before anything could really go off, so that was interesting. But look, they need to keep this man alive because I do think if he dies, the Republicans will win. So I'm hoping that
you think
he doesn't get hurt. Yeah, because then they can use that as a hero moment. It's kind of like 9/11 with George Bush. He was an awful president. People thought he was stupid, but the minute 9/11 happened, it was like, well, we all need to rally together around the president, and he can be the one that, so I just feel like they can make this a hero moment.
For JD Vance.
Not even for JD Vance, but just for the Republican Party being so much chaos is happening. You saw how the language of they can spin it.
Yeah, they'll be ultimate victims.
Democrats have cost people's lives, and now we just need to huddle. I just think they can make it into a hero moment. So I think the best case scenario is that he stays alive. So. But yeah, the assassination attempt happened in a lot of politics stuff. But I feel like we need. What are your thoughts first before we get to Diddy? Because I feel like there's so much to cover with Diddy that I don't want to lose steam with it. But what are your thoughts on the?
I mean, I thought that, like you said, I thought it was clear that Kamala won. I thought she did great. She was present and, like we said, was just able to actually feel we had somebody in the ring that was saying something. I feel like with Biden and, Hillary. Sometimes it was just I don't know. They're just not as...
Hillary won every single debate she went against Trump. It's just
I know.
People are assholes and didn't vote for her. Truly.
I mean, I just feel I feel even Biden and stuff. I just feel
Biden was not fit.
I just feel Hillary... I mean, I don't remember the debates, honestly, back then.
Hillary...
Yeah, I'm sure she won. But it's just I don't know. I feel Kamala gets under Donald Trump's skin in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And and I told you this last week, me and Danielle just like really feel like this man is like low-key attracted to
He probably
Kamala.
is, yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, that just like changes the dynamic a little bit. But yeah, it was definitely, it's crazy. Like, it was entertaining, and it's just like, this is the state of our world right now. It is it sucks that Kamala has to, it's just such a display of just like Black women, Black people in general having to like be perfect, and then we're matched up with somebody that literally was handed his life on a silver platter. So it's just it was such a like a spectacle in that way. But yeah,
It was, definitely was. I believe she will win. There probably won't be another debate, and I think she'll do a good performance.
Yep. I look forward to the vice president debate.
Oh yeah, that's, I think, next week. So I believe it's next week, but I could be wrong.
I think so. I think maybe.
It shall be good. But are you ready to talk about the big juice?
Alexis, you want to get right into it.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
So today we have two things on trial. We'll start with Diddy. So today Diddy was arrested and denied bail for 3 charges. And so I'm just going to give a quick little recap of just like what he did. And then I'm so curious of your thoughts, Samantha. He has 3 charges. The first count is racketeering conspiracy. And what really falls under this is like the Combs enterprise. They really go after that. And they kind of see that it kind of all operated as a criminal enterprise. They were engaged in like forced labor, sex trafficking, kidnapping, bribery, arson was in there, obstruction of justice was in there. It kind of came out, he would verbally, physically, emotionally, and sexually abuse these women. Yes. He manipulated the women into participating in orchestrated performances of sex with male commercial sex workers. He ensured their participation by drugging them, leveraging financial support and intimidation and violence. He also would strike these women by punching them, dragging them, throwing objects at them, kicking them. This violence also extended. This was the thing that also shocked me. This violence also extended to his employees and witnesses to the abuse, not just the women. And a couple last things with this racketeering charge, they really brought up this idea of freak offs, and what in these freak offs that Diddy were doing, which was sex performances that Diddy arranged, directed, and masturbated during, and also recorded. They lasted multiple days, and he distributed controlled substances to these women to keep them obedient and compliant during freak offs. And after freak offs, victims received IV fluids to recover from physical exertion and drug use. He subjected these women to physical, emotional, verbal abuse which made them want, like, the victims have to basically engage in these freak offs. And even up until 2023, they had, with this racketeering charge, Diddy was attempting to bribe victims, these women, to stay silent and not report their experiences to the law enforcement. The last 2 charges were a count of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. And the last count, the third count, is transportation to engage in prostitution. So he went to court today. He was denied. He offered a $50 million bond because that's how much he does not want to go to jail or prison or wherever he goes. And they denied $50 million. So he is
in jail currently.
He's in custody until his trial. So what are your thoughts on Diddy?
I mean, there's just so many thoughts. I mean, this man is just disgraceful and disgusting and a true monster. Like, like when you call people a monster, it's just like, yeah, like this guy was as bad as it can get. It's just like, it's just sick and sad, and it's just also like I wonder if I know that they said they have video of these things, and like I wonder if any other people will be implicated, like other people that we know that are public figures. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I guess it's just like the day has come, you know. It's just like we've been waiting for an arrest, and it's come, and it's much deserved. And I just feel like he is probably just losing his mind right now. Like he has not been. This is a person that has been free and feeling like he is the king of the world for decades, and now he is in jail and like being told no, and like, you know, no, you can't get out on bond. Like that probably is, you know, a different experience for this man. But yeah, I'm completely disgusted. Like the more details that come out about this, like now having this indictment, obviously we saw it with Cassie's video. It was so troubling, and literally I felt physically sick watching that video. And so it's just further goes to show, just like you said, his employees, everybody was like technically, you know, well, not everybody, but I'll say like victims of this man. So yeah, it's just like, wow, it finally happened.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it was in due time and it happened. I have so many thoughts though.
You go.
It is wild to me. Well, I'll save that for later. I'll save that for later. It is insane to me that he was rapping in everyone basically around him. I find it like I was kind of talking to Julia about that because I was just like, his household staff. It's like, just think of like the fucking maid who's just trying to do her fucking job and witnesses somebody getting punched and now has like, you know, has witnessed a crime and feels like they can't say anything. It's like all these like vulnerable people who like are just happen to, you know, want to just do their job and move on, now are wrapped up in this. And it's like, how fucking selfish can you be? And then it was like wild to me. It's like, this is the thing. He disrespects women. That has never been a thing that has like made me shocked. Okay, I can listen to his music and understand he disrespects women, right? Like I saw Making the Band. I understand he disrespects women. It's not taken to be lightly, but that did not shock me. But it shocked me how it went as far as to then he also spits, drag, kicks, physically abuses, intimidates his own employees who so we're talking about household staff, we're talking about the people that work for Sean Combs Enterprises, who just are there, doing their job and witnessing. He also physically abuses them. That was just like, you literally think you're a fucking untouchable and you have the right to put your hands on and treat people however you want to. To the fact that like, yeah, you do it to women, which doesn't shock me, but you go as far as to literally do it to any employee who just fucking turns their head and witnesses the wrong thing. Right. Terrible human.
It's like everybody can get it. Somebody randomly on the street, like, you know.
And then just these freak offs. I'm just like, what are y'all doing that you have to have IVs transported to the hotels? After
scheduling IV appointments.
You're scheduling IVs to be
days after
to be you know, what is it called, delivered,
administered
to the hotel. What is happening in these? What kind of sex is happening in these fucking hotels? I'm like, that's crazy.
I mean,
and Julia was like, these girls are probably not getting fed. They're probably not getting sleep. They're probably not getting anything.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They probably have a lot of drugs and drinking in their system.
Like, so they no regard to humans.
So the IV is to, you know, bring them back to life.
It's just no regard to human life at all when it's just like you're willing to just like treat someone. We're talking like health wise, anyway, which way, and just he like, you know,
daughters, and he has a lot.
This man has daughters.
sons, people
And then
watching him.
And then I was like, it is despicable that after all of this, you sat up here on Beyonce's inner internet and literally were crying on the fucking his video he made talking about how he found God, he apologizes, and the people are always trying to get out, like, trying to get you, acting as if like just the Cassie thing was the only thing that ever happened and everything else was a lie. And that people are just trying to tear him down.
So you lied to everybody.
You are disgusting. You're trying to play a victim when you literally over here terrorizing women, but also your vulnerable people, like women, but also the people that work for your ass. I find it to be disgusting, and it's just so funny to me. I was literally thinking this is just random, and this is the last thing I'll say, but it's like, I was also just thinking, like, what would Dr. Umar say about this? Because I'm like, he's so pressed about snow bunnies and that being the only way that you can't, like, uplift Black people. But I'm like, this is a Black man who, like, straight up, like, disrespects, like, Black women, abuses them, is disgusting towards them, strikes them. And we're talking about women, but also then just, like, the Black community. I'm sure the security people that work for him one of them is Black. I'm sure some of the household people are. What would he say about that?
I'm pretty sure he has talked about it. I'll have to, like, look up what he said about it. Mm-hmm. But from what I remember, he definitely was, like, condemning that, and just, yeah,
like, that to me is not pro-Black, or like, you're not for Black. I mean,
hell no, hell no. But no, I definitely don't think. I think that from what I remember, Dr. Umar was, like, adamantly, like, against that. But I will say, I feel like, it's just so much, like. I'm sorry. I'm like, I got off track with the Dr. Umar thing. Yeah, man. I don't know. I do think it's like he must be a sociopath or
in a sex addict. That's the one. I feel like that is like given.
He is a addict, period. Like, he is probably an alcoholic, drug addict, sex addict. Like, that's like not even a question. And yeah, it's just like a person that this is what you see when a person has just really feels
believes
like
they're God and they can do whatever they want.
That they are untouchable.
No one has ever told him no in the last 30 years, probably.
Yeah.
And this is what you get. But I'm also just like, I'm just so like, why drug these women and have sex with them unwillingly when they're impaired? You are Diddy. You could probably find 50, hundreds of girls a night who would.
We've talked about this,
who would, like,
Alexis,
willingly want to have sex with you. You could still have this weird ass power dynamic you want to have over them. You could probably still get them to do whatever you want. All you have to do is just not drug them. Like, you could literally get exactly what you want just without the drugs. Like, I'm just so. You could probably find girls that will be in a hotel with you for 4 days and get on IVs at the end of it. Like, what is the point?
I mean, I feel like beyond that, like you said, it's a lot of beyond just the drugs. It's like, your career, your whatever. Like, he's using a lot of different manipulation tactics beyond just the drugs to get these women to.
But what I'm saying is, he doesn't have to do that. He could find girls who, like, willingly would have sex with Diddy on any day, and there was no job on the table.
That's not appealing to him. He wants there to be some, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a healthy, consensual, loving intimacy. Like, that's not, or even just freaky ass shit. Like, that's not what he wants. He wants it to, and also at a certain point, like, we're talking about decades. This is a bottomless pit. Like, if we talk about sex addiction, it's just like, an addict, it's just like you are never satisfied, and it just gets more and more, especially as you just get away with it for decades. It's just like, it's just what is crazy to me is just like, I just wonder how big this enterprise was. Like, I wonder how many women.
I think it's very huge.
Yeah, like how many women, like what type of transport, like were they just like having a plane full of women come? Like, it's just so gross.
And this is crazy because this is only the beginning. Julia was talking about how like this is the federal lawsuit, but it's like he broke state laws by that, like by the transportation of the prostitutes crossing into different states. Like he's gonna get state charges from different states because they listed out New York, they listed out California, they listed out so many different places. The possession of drugs, like he's gonna get state charges for those for every single state he was in with those. I mean, this is like the possession of guns. I mean, they found 3 AR-15s with the fucking serial number fucked up at his home when they like sieged it a couple months ago. It's just like this man is a damn near a mafia like leader, and it's just like. But it's just the women shit. I just don't. I mean, I think you're right. It's like he just does. He's not seeking a healthy relationship. He's not seeking consensual. He doesn't want. It's not sexy to have consensual sex. It is only sexy to have it in this way. Because I'm just like,
brain is probably rotted by like making porn video. Like he is. And then
that's another charge, like videoing sex without someone's consent and all those fucking like. It's like Julia was like having a group chat with her lawyer friends, and they were just like, "This is only the beginning." And they said this actually to them after reading this and then thinking about all the other charges to come, they think it's worse than R. Kelly. Like they think he's going to get a sentence that's worse than R. Kelly off of all of this.
Wow. Yeah, and I can see that.
Yes, and R. Kelly got 31 years. We like looked it up, and so it's like they were like, "Oh, we think it's gonna be way worse because he has to deal with this federal lawsuit, but then all the the tens of maybe 20 different state charges he'll get off of like all of it." And I'm just like, my god,
did R. Kelly get like racketeering charges?
I'm not positive what he got, but I know there was shit with minors, right? So that was like one thing. It's like, and I'm sure there was like
sex trafficking, probably.
And I'm sure there was some type of like harboring or kidnapping charge because he wouldn't let those people leave the studio. So I mean, probably some of the charges are similar, but it's like if he only got 31 years for that, I can't imagine what Diddy's gonna get for all of these random shit he's doing. And I'm just like.
Yes, he did get sentenced for racketeering charges.
But then also just like, again, I do just think this is the beginning of these like rap uncles and daddies, that are old as shit.
Ew,
like getting
like
getting in trouble. Because I mean, it's like if you did business with Diddy since the 90s, you absolutely at one point saw something uncomfortable happen. I don't care. Like he seems like he was operating like, who cares who sees? I'll just threaten them. I'll just hit them. It's like you can't tell me.
You at least heard of these freak offs.
Right.
Like,
you can't tell me you didn't go to his all white party.
We've already heard about the party.
Right. You didn't go to his boat rides. You didn't go to just his house or the studio with him and not witness him
even just being at his party,
mentally or gross. Sexually abuse a woman. Yes. So I'm like, all of these people are going down.
Yeah. And also I'm curious too, like, I know they were saying like drug trafficking was I just wonder what all businesses have been benefiting from this. And
they said he has to return the assets. Did you see that in the indictment? Like,
yes.
Any money or any money he earned through these crimes, he has to return. Any property he has to turn over, so the cars, guns, anything.
I mean, it is just like, what did you think was gonna happen?
I guess if you do it for so long, you think the intimidation and the money works.
I just wonder. I wonder like when because I have a feeling like
I think Cassie and that video broke it all. I think.
But even before that, like I just feel like I know that lady Sloan Bella that talks about Jay-Z's downfall. She was just saying that like he's going to try to rebrand himself or whatever. And
Jay-Z or Diddy?
Jay-Z.
Okay.
But it feels like, P. Diddy did that. Like he named himself Love.
But nobody was calling him Love. We were still calling him Diddy. You tried it.
I know, but he was still, it's crazy. This time last year, right?
He was getting the BET Icon Award.
Wasn't it the BET? Yeah, it was BET. And it's like, wow.
But isn't that the sick part is at that time we knew he was abusing women. We just didn't care. You know what I'm saying? Like at that time we We had all witnessed on TV how he treated Lorian Gibson and the band. We all at that point had heard about Danny Duquesne and their fall off. We had heard all the allegations from Aubrey O'Day.
Oh my goodness.
At that point, we had also heard about I want to say Cassie possibly at that point was bubbling up. Like literally, we didn't care. BET knew all of this shit still. They probably, especially after this indictment, they said high-ranking business executives. They listed anybody in his entourage. I'm sure somebody at BET knew personally with their own fucking eyes, or knew somebody with their own fucking eyes had witnessed Diddy do one of these crimes, and they still gave him that fucking award.
Yeah, to give the guy the award, like, you know, it's like, it's not even like he's winning for, he's getting the icon award where he gets celebrated. And I remember watching it and just being like, oh my, like, I didn't even, like, it's just crazy how much can happen in a year. To be on the stage for that, getting like honored and praised, and like I feel like Carisha was in the audience
with her like, sign. Yep.
You know, that was that.
No, I think the sign was like, so this was the thing. He had 2 years of getting honored. The first
That's
year
why
was with the sign.
Probably
the second year was with his kids on the stage dancing.
I mean, that sounds like he's like buying that. Like, you know, it's like, you know, money talks. Like, and the fact that this guy is, you know, at that point, probably desperate. Like, I'm sure when Harvey Weinstein, when he saw even R. Kelly, like
Bill Cosby, all of them, man.
It didn't stop them. And that's when you know, okay, this person is actually sick, and he just thinks that he's a danger. And just his addiction and danger and the level, he is a danger to society. He is a danger to women. And that is the bottom line. Like, this guy. And we have every freaking crime documentary. It's just like, we just looking at the Justice Department like, you could have done something a long time ago. Like, people,
they didn't.
And I feel like, honestly, it's just, I just feel like
you need to thank Cassie, because like Cassie offered to settle this in private, and he said no, which made her have to settle it publicly, which allowed us to then see the documents, which then allowed us eventually the video to come out. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Cassie was the catalyst for all of this, because she offered him to do this privately. He just had to pay her in the hush. They you know, NDAs were involved. They would never speak of this, just said they settled it privately. He refused, which made her have to settle, publicly go after him. And this opened the whole can of worms. I know he's probably sleeping at night thinking, I should have just went with the fucking initial settlement. But you thought your shit didn't stink. You thought that like she wasn't gonna go after you.
The fact that he went on live a couple of months ago was like, boy.
Knowing the whole time you were hitting your employees, drugging these women, having to give them IV fluids at the end of the day, the whole time, but crying, boo-hooing.
You know what's just very disgusting about this whole thing is, because, like we said, because people know about this, like at that status or whatever, have seen it, it's just like, it just makes me think that like people at that level may have just some type of desensitization from the weird shit. And I feel like this is not unheard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the one sex ring or whatever is going on. It's like rich white men, or men of any
race, rich,
just men that are rich are
power,
like, and that is probably why the P. Diddy's and whatever, they think that they can get away with this until they die, because some of them do. And it's like it's probably accepted, sadly.
Absolutely.
Disgustingly.
It's accepted. There is like a
protected.
I'm sure there is like a superiority complex where they possibly think like he's in his right to do it, you know, like he's at a certain status and he has a certain level of power that, you know, the girl should have just da-da-da. I'm sure they also do it themselves. And I think you're right. There is a desensitization to all of it, especially the sexual shit. And I feel like
Yep.
It's just sick and it's sad, and it also just goes to show you like how far you can get away with stuff if money is involved or if like
Yep.
fear is involved. Because I'm just like, this they said they all of the things they said dated back to 2019. I mean, sorry, 2009. However, I believe we all know that this probably happened before 2009, but they were able to trace this particular lawsuit to 2009. And I'm just like, so what? What is that, over 20 years? Yeah, over 20 years of people turning a blind eye, not reporting it to the authorities, or not having enough like power to get it like out and out of,
being in a victim place.
Right. And it's just sick. And I'm just like, I would love to know what his kids are thinking. I would love to know. And also I was looking on TikTok and some people, this is all alleged, but I was looking on TikTok and they were like, honestly, more is going to come out, as Julia's friend said, like, more lawsuits are going to come out. I'm so curious if like this might end. And this is all alleged. This is just my curiosity's going. Don't sue us. But I would be curious if something comes out about, his former lovers, was it his ex-wife, or I don't know if they got married or not.
Yeah, Kim Porter.
Kim Porter's murder. Death. I'm curious if this might like open up that.
I mean, what's her name? What's the lady's name that I watch on freaking YouTube? Hold on. Jaguar Wright has been talking about that forever, about just that situation. And also, the Sloan Bella lady has been talking about that. And again, none of these people have gotten like cease and desist for saying this stuff. It's very strange. Like, so yeah, it's just a crazy world we live in.
It's crazy, but this opened up a can of fucking worms for him. And I am so curious to see where this goes. But I just hope at the end of the day, it ends with him getting treated just like any other person that would go through the system, not a person with status and money and connections.
Right.
I hope that it ends up with like justice for the victims. I hope it ends up with accountability for Sean Combs and
the people that enabled him.
And also, yes, and all the other people that enabled him that were not. Well, I'll get into that later. Because I'm like, I care more about the high-ranking officials and executives getting their due than I do about like if it's like the maid, like,
I mean, but, she was in a hostile work,
right? Exactly. You have no choice at some points, but I just hope that. That's how this ends, but we will be watching it as it unfolds, and I'm so happy. I thought they were going to fold and give him bail. I was so happy when he was denied bond.
Yes, he is a danger to society. I mean, that indictment had literally, I feel like, almost every crime I can think of besides murder.
Right, exactly. And rape was pretty much implied. He probably will get hit with some type of rape charge, maybe at the state level. Like, all of that was implied,
Yep. It is it's crazy.
Any final thoughts before we go on to the second thing on trial?
Nope. I'm ready to
I'll ask you, because this is something I know you really want to talk about. What is the second thing on trial, my friend?
So I thought it would be a nice thing to talk about. Angela Rye and Jill Stein on The Breakfast Club. I believe they went on The Breakfast Club like right after the debate. And also Jill Stein's running mate, I want to get his name right, I think it's Dr. Butch Ware.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
And so they went on to The Breakfast Club. Angela Rye was there making comment on, they were having this discussion about Jill Stein on the ticket and the Green Party, and it has caused like some just discourse around Angela Rye. Some of it's like surprising to me, which I'll get into, but yeah, just Angela Rye was definitely getting in her feelings a little bit, which is understandable. All of them were. while they were having this discussion, but what I feel happened is like I feel like Angela Rye like did more damage in this case.
Well, let's
Weirdly.
recap like a little bit, like what were the topics they were talking, like give a little bit of context of
Yeah,
like
I
what
mean,
she was there to do besides who she is.
So she was, telling what she's running on. She's running on, you know, power to the people, like, ending the genocide now, like having a third party, not being basically bullied by the Democratic and Republican Party. She talked about, different ways that her party feels like that they're being silenced by way.
She was there kind of just to be interviewed about like
Yeah,
the
about
third party
her
candidate
her
representation,
running
basically.
in the race. Yes,
Okay.
they feel like they have a true chance.
Yeah, they probably
winning,
always do.
And so Angela Rye was asking questions, and I guess just it was like if she was obviously frustrated, they were talking over each other. It was, so it was like a discussion about basically whether, is it ever possible to have a third party, like things that, like reparations and climate change and not being in like senseless wars and things like that. Like, is that party ever an option, I guess? And yeah, like they're running on that. I guess I can share some of my thoughts, but I do want to hear your thoughts about. I feel like the timing of the interview was not ideal. I feel like it's September 17th. Like there's not much time before we can before we go to the polls, and I feel like we are like, no matter if we do like Kamala as the, as our candidate, we are choosing the lesser of two evils. Like that was just always I feel like with Biden, like when we were doing that, like now, yes, we do have Kamala, and we hope that she is, will do the things that she's promising, like listening to the people and, healthcare and gun bans, like, banning not all guns, obviously, because she said that, but, assault rifles and things like that. And so yeah, I'm curious your thoughts. I feel like I kind of just rambled, but I do feel like it was interesting timing. Like I feel like it wasn't the best timing. I feel like Angela Rye, because she was so defensive, it almost gave people were very turned off by the way that she was talking and like seeming like what Jill Stein like said, just like, parroting some of the, Democratic like reasons why a Green Party like just isn't possible.
The only thing that I would say to you is I think it's very dangerous rhetoric to say there are two sides of the same coin. I do think it's important for us to
dangerous
understand.
To the Democrats, yes.
I think it's dangerous to all of us, actually. Yeah, I don't have the privilege.
We disagree.
I understand. We do on a lot, but we also agree on a lot. But here's one thing I think we can agree on. Either you win or lose this election. There's really no in between. Dr. Stein, in 2002, you ran for governor of Massachusetts and you lost. In 2004, you ran for state representative in Massachusetts and you lost. In 2006, you ran for secretary of the Commonwealth. You also lost. In 2010, you ran for governor again, this time against the first black governor in Massachusetts, Deval Patrick. You lost. In 2012, you ran against this country's first black president, and you got just less than 0.5% of total votes cast. In 2016, you ran against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, losing significantly with 1.4 million votes cast for you, but 0 electoral college votes, which I agree with y'all needs to be abolished. But 136 million people voted. and you lost that election as well. So I want to know what the pathway to victory is for you in 2024. It can't just
now,
be.
I'd like to. Yes. This is the framing of the empire and the oligarchy and white supremacy and colonialism, which wants you to feel that resistance is futile. This is about voter blaming and voter shaming.
Let me just no. What you're not going to say is that I'm ever parroting anything at the hands of white supremacy. This is something that's very different. This is me asking you again. It's a binary
I'm
choice
just
in an
pointing
election.
out that these are the talking points.
No, it's
these
not
are
a
the
talking
same
point.
talking points that the DNC
I didn't get my talking
uses.
This is not DNC talking points. This is my research. And sadly for you, the research says you have never won an election. You have been successful in pushing forward certain agendas. As an advocate, but you have never won an election as a candidate.
Is
that a winning strategy?
So, in order to win, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and in this case, it's many steps. Let me point out, please. You need to compare the Green Party not with those who are taking money from AIPAC and the War Machine and Wall Street. You've got to compare us. Excuse me. You have to compare us to other grassroots, non-corporate.
She told me I'm a white supremacist. Okay.
We need.
She said I was parroting the talking points of a white supremacist.
So yeah, I feel like the point was lost, I feel like they could have drilled down a bit more on okay, well, this is why Trump can't get in there. It's just how can we work together and make sure that this man does not get in? Because like they said, they talked about, us facing fascism versus imperialism that is happening across the borders versus us being impacted by fascism here with Trump winning, Am I making sense?
Yeah, I'm just kind of letting you lay down your point.
I'm just kind of laying out the landscape of just this man is unfit. We have it's just this man is unfit, and we cannot have him win. And at this point, it just feels too late to have these conversations, and it does worry me a bit. I mean, I feel like whatever is going to happen with this election. I do feel like Kamala will win. And that's honestly I feel like if she wins, maybe her and Jill can, work together or something, in hopes of getting towards, not having genocide, really, not putting our dollars towards that. I am for that, but it's just we need to have a sensible way of getting there, I guess.
So is that before I share my opinion, I'm just curious, was that the main point she was making with the Green Party? Is this Palestine?
No, she was saying a lot more about, it was Palestine. It was.
I heard her talking about, we're not in the hands of, big money basically.
Yes.
In the planet. But I'm if Palestine, I don't know, I have an issue. If Palestine's their only issue that is keeping people to the Green Party, again, I have an issue with that. My thoughts, I think it was it's look, fine, have her on for the Green Party to talk about the Green Party. At the end of the day, it is unfortunately, in my opinion, throwing away your vote. We don't live in a multi-party system. We live in a two-party system. So unfortunately,
you think that'll be forever?
Probably not. I mean, there's always potential. There's always potential for it to change, and that would take a lot of uprising and change, but maybe in 100 or 200 years. But I feel
200
I don't see that happening in my near future in 50 years when I'm 80, but I'm saying, but I think it could happen in longer. But my point is that it is true that right now, other countries have multi-party systems, and it really, when you do make those votes within these multi-party systems, it does cause other parties to sway their opinion in more coalition building on the lefter side or on the right side, however it looks. In this two-party system, though, giving your vote to a third party is essentially throwing away your vote. I understand that she caught that propaganda, but it is true. If you give a vote at the end of the day, like Angela Rye said, you're going to have to like win some elections at a certain point. And in America's history, the majority of elections are won by the major parties, which is Republican or Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, if you're left and you want to give it to the Green Party, it is one less vote from the party that has more of a chance of winning, which would be the Democratic Party. I think for me, if they had, I don't have a problem with them having Jill Stein on. She can come on 2 years ago. But I feel like, again, this is 2 months from November. I find it a little irresponsible. I do think, and it sounds like Jill Stein agrees, that the number one thing is to not have Trump in office. I think any votes that would sway away from from the group or person that has the most the majority chance of winning is a little irresponsible at this point, especially it being a Black broadcasting network, right. Especially with a lot of the policies that Trump has that would single-handedly affect Black people. It's interesting that everybody wants to talk about the genocide in Palestine, but I can't imagine the genocide that would happen among Black people with 100% police immunity. And that's why it's just interesting to me that that's like the one thing some people really harp on, when we can in fact point to what will most likely happen to Black and brown bodies under 100% police immunity, stop and frisk country. And so for me, it is a little and then also we can talk about like birth, right? IVF, birthing. We know that Black Black women have the highest mortality rate when it comes to birthing, and they need a lot of health care and treatment and mental health and medicine that goes in, and Trump is easily trying to stop all these fertility things. Again, it's just like weird to me that a Black broadcast would do that. It does sound, great. Like, I do want a party and a candidate that's not beholden to big money. I do want a party and candidate that cares about the climate. And I do think that Kamala cares about the climate. Like, we're not talking about somebody who is like who's like Trump,
having your
like,
hands
tied. I don't care at all. You know what I'm saying?
It's just about having your hands tied in terms of what's actually feasible with if you are operating under these big companies.
Exactly.
But I'll say,
I just wanted to finish this last point. I just think about AOC and how, like, when she came into the House of Representatives, she was like, and she probably still is very far left leaning, progressive, has I forget what the squad, and and she kind of talked about on a live a couple weeks ago how she still has those beliefs, but she had to become more pragmatic in the sense that this other re-envisioning progressive party is slowly growing, and while that's slowly growing and she can support it, she also needs to throw her people, resources, and reputation behind the Democratic Party when it comes down to, like, at the end of the day, Trump versus Kamala. And so for me, it's just like, at the end of the day, that sounds great, and I hope that we continue to have these conversations. But to me, the focus is Trump or Kamala are the only ones where they're on that fucking debate stage, because they're the only ones with a real shot. I believe I'm not really here to like be overly critical to the point where it like dissuades people from voting for her, when we understand this is like some people's real chance of survival, going Kamala's route.
I agree. I have a couple thoughts when you were talking. Like, I feel like I'm like thinking about like, the Breakfast Club, and was it irresponsible, or was this I do feel like I was, and I wanted to hear what you thought about like how Jill talks about like how she's like been like suppressed. Like there's been like, the Democratic Party mostly.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's what she says, is like, trying to find any way to get her out of the race.
Absolutely.
And, or just like kind of silence her. Yeah. Like they've been denied like certain, they can't speak or whatever. And so, or like, news time or whatever. And so it's like, I'm curious your thoughts about that. And just like, I don't want to live in a society where we snuff out this conversation. Because, like, okay, if they really don't have a chance of winning, but we're trying to like turn the tide at the same, like, it's almost like I almost hope, and I don't feel like she will do this because, you know, I think this was a big win for them. Like, honestly,
Who's them?
Just Jill Stein and Dr. Ware. Like, this was like everybody in the comments are like just
defending them.
Yeah, and it's like it's because, like, yes, they are talking towards, you know, like, people are tired here, like, you know, they're speaking to real things, and but I also agree that it's almost like they're just not ready. It's like
it's just not, it's time.
Jill Stein should just like say, you know, like, I feel like she should concede, go with Kamala, and then, you know, come back out.
Yes,
and
I mean, and she runs every fucking year, right?
She does.
Jill Stein is on this ballot every 4 years. I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't think
it's just like maybe Kamala will be the, you know, maybe if it's Kamala Harris and Jill Stein, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the next race, like, and so.
I mean, things constantly shift. I think we understand with American politics, right? There was a time when the Republican Party was, you know, the party of Lincoln, anti-killing, stopping slavery. It's like, right, and now look at them. And so it's just like, and I mean, they were racist back then too, but I'm just saying, like, nowadays they probably would vote for slavery again, the Republicans, if they could. And so it's just like things change, and I do think I'm sure, I mean, maybe in my lifetime or after, like, there will be a rise maybe of another party, or the Democratic Party will look differently. And I do think this conversation should continue to happen. I think she probably, if I had to guess, gets silenced because it's happening in high stakes times when like there's, unfortunately, it's like we're going up against Trump. Like, personally, and maybe I'm just not tapped in, I only think about Jill Stein or hear about Jill Stein to this regularity when she's on interviews when it's an election year. And so it's just like, unfortunately, lately, these election years since 2016, well, honestly, since before 2016, since pretty much my entire lifetime, have been very high stakes, right? And so it's just like, unfortunately, she probably gets silenced because it's like the worst possible time for you to be taking up space. And I hate to say it like that, because she has some great ideas. Some of the stuff she was talking about on the Buffers Club, I'm like, yes, I fall in line with that. And I hope that these conversations continue and we can continue to move closer to that direction. One thing I will say is that the Democratic Party is expansive, right? Not everybody thinks like Kamala. There's a lot of people that think like Jill Stein that still identify themselves with the Democratic Party. And so it's just like, it's not like she's thinking or saying anything new. I mean, I remember Marianne Williamson had they asked about reparations maybe 2 cycles ago, and she had everybody on the stage had a plan that was a part of the Democratic Party about reparations. Yep. So it's not even like she's coming with anything new.
Well, I guess she was saying that they just
weren't going to enact it.
Well, they were the party that has brought some of these things in, like, has made like that become a conversation, like,
right? And so it makes me think that like there is some influences from her and from her party, and so that's why I'm just like, I don't want people to think that the Democratic Party is like everything Kamala does and believes in this, you know, possibly moderate or like left moderate person is like represents all of us. She does not. But I think a lot of, there are people in this party that are there are progressives and don't even call themselves liberal. But it's just that they understand when it comes down to the ballot, they're voting for Kamala because of the fact that this party just has more power and resources and like manpower. Right now.
In this present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like one thing, respect Jill Stein and people like that like do have the fortitude. I wish that they understood that, like, like I said, like conceding and go, like, take it up to a point and then let's go Kamala. Like, get your people.
And endorsing her. Get your people to come on board.
Yes, exactly. And they truly feel that it's like it's now or never. Like they were talking
the Green Party, like now or never,
or just like the things that need to, not now or never for the Green Party, but just the things that are happening are dire and like they have to take this shit to the end. Like, you know,
I mean, it might
like,
be. That's what I'm saying. It might be.
But
America's constantly backwards.
You gotta be a little serious. Like, I'm sure and I don't want to be rude, but like Dr. Butchware, like, you know, I'm sure he is an intelligent man, but is that your best VP to like actually be taken seriously? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like stuff like that. It's just
point.
like you might not be ready. Like people can't. We know that like we are dealing with such a large amount of people that we have to get them to accept.
I just think Angela Rye she probably would. I mean, look, I'm not here to cutting off people and going back. You know, there's a bet. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But my thing is this: I'm sure her greatest fear is that if a significant amount of people of the population who would have voted for Democrat vote Green Party to the point where officially the Democratic Party comes under. Because the Green Party didn't get the votes, the Democratic Party didn't get the votes, and now it's Trump. And there's all these different consequences that come from that. I'm sure that's her greatest fear, and that's why she was really on there trying to like,
but sadly,
angrily and with a lot of emotion behind it as a Black woman who also has fertility issues. Like, I don't know if you listen to her podcast with what's his name, Andrew Gillum, and Tiffany. Native land, but like she shares about she's like 40 something, and she shares about her like different miscarriages. Not miscarriages, the different her journey with IVF and not having viable like matches and things like that. And so it's just like, I'm sure there's a lot of emotion behind and real consequences for a Black woman like her. And so I think that's why we got what we got. But I really, you know, they could have the most creative, you know, reimagining of politics that is great and good and sounds great. Right now, it's just not gonna get the votes.
I just wish that was communicated. I think that Angela Rye, sadly, I don't know if it was just the triggeredness or being, I don't know, but like it backfired because it's just well, actually. We like, you know, a lot more people are like, you do sound like you are trying to, like the way that you're saying it, like going down the list, like of all the time she lost. Yeah. It's like your point is getting lost in the manner that you're saying it. Like it's just, and people are tired. Like, I think that was a really big, it was surprising, honestly, to see the amount of support that Jill Stein was getting in the comments. Like, I was just like, whoa, like this is new. Like, I don't know. It was very surprising. And so I just feel like it is good for her and people like her to like, you know, I feel like some people may look at her as like, you know, you are not looking out for the, I guess, or like relating to them on where they're from, and like you boo-hooing and like sounding like you're trying to silence this lady. And like, you know, it's just like,
but I also want to be like, I just need to do my research, because I'm like, the Green Party is also just not all like 100% like amazing and good, right? So it's just like she came on to sell her party, and so I'm sure there's things that like we would also be very much turned off from, or thinking. And it was good question. So that's why I'm like, and
I also feel like all of this is like, hopefully in divine timing. Please, Lord, let Kamala win, because I feel like. Yeah, I feel like they were good. That's what they're going to ask you. Like, that is how people are in this country. Like, they come for your whole shit. Right. Like, you know, they're going to come for where you're from. Like, Angela Rye was asking her about, like, you were at the table with Vladimir Putin. What was that about? Like, you know, like, it's just like, you need a tough critic. And I feel like, yeah, it got a little lost. It was a little surprising to me, but
I would love to talk to the Breakfast Club about like just their guests. One, what's the purpose of their guests? I mean, this is the same platform that gave Candace Owens a platform. So that's why I'm just like, I feel like sometimes I no longer listen to the Breakfast Club. Like after that, I was just kind of like, you have gone way too fucking far. And so for me, it's just like they have proven to show who they are to me at this point, and I think it's just they want money and they want views, and so I would like to know what was their purpose of having Jill Stein come on this close to the election when they could have had Kamala come on. You know, they could have had
I
Tim
wonder
Walz.
if she's
She might have.
Kamala.
She might. But I'm just saying, like, you could have had Tim Walz. You could have had somebody else from the chief of staff. You could have had somebody, you know, whatever. But it's just like, what was the purpose of having Jill Stein come on this less than 2 months away from November 4th?
I mean, part of me feels like, you know, I agree. I agree that it's just like we shouldn't be throwing a wrench into stuff. But I also do agree it's just like we shouldn't be also like silencing anybody either. Like if it truly is these big you know, two faces of fascism and imperialism, like let Jill Stein talk about whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I get that. I totally, like, I feel like we should be able to have these conversations. I don't feel like anybody should be silenced, because at the end of the day, I do agree, you know, like at the end of the day, that's ideal. Like, and I have a lot of hope with Kamala, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
I agree. I think we'll see I would love to see, you know, more voices and their perspectives as it, you know, to different issues and topics.
Yeah, because we talk about billionaires all the time.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm sure at the end of the day they're still operating in a capitalistic society. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting, but it's just like I just think
everything is a capitalist.
Exactly. So it's just like you can have these plans, but you're still gonna have to navigate it within these circumstances. So I'm sure at some point you're gonna be reproducing it.
I just feel like they are. I mean, they are very radical too. They were like, their purpose is to like dismantle the empire of the United States. And it's just like, I hear you, but
that would scare a lot of people.
That's going to scare a lot of people. And also,
especially without a concrete plan of what happens after.
And it should scare you a little bit too. Like, I remember me and Soleil were talking about, and we could end after this. Me and Soleil were just like, because, you know, all of the astrologers and stuff are always just like, you know, the America, like the empire is crumbling, like we're seeing it, whatever. And like me and Soleil are just like, we don't want to like live in a dystopian society where like, you know, we don't have certain things. Like I do like watching Netflix and like being with my dog and whatever. And so it's just like, do you really actually want what you're asking for? Like the empire of like the infrastructures and things like that. Like I hope we can find a transition that makes sense. But yeah. You know, like let's keep the roads intact. Let's keep the things that work. You know, but let's just make it better. And it's just the things are so obvious. The guns, like people should have. It's just, it could be so different. So I do believe that we're getting closer to that. Like I don't look at Kamala and be like, she's a war criminal. Like I don't feel like that. And I feel like if you were going at that, I think I'm dead. If you were going at that, it's like we are war criminals fucking too. Like our money is going to that. You know?
I mean, I think
if you're gonna say that, you know.
Yes, and again, I would love to talk to somebody about why not. And I'm not saying why in a way of like this shouldn't be the thing, but like why is that truly your like hanging thing right now?
I know.
When you could look at the U.S. and see the disproportionate amount of trans people getting killed. We could call that a genocide. You know, like there are so many things happening here in the US. There are people, communities just straight up dying and getting killed. And you don't have this much of a stand for, to the point where you're willing to, like, you know, take your vote off the table. Like, why is this something happening in a different, and I'm not saying you shouldn't care about it, but I generally want to know why, because I just feel like, why do not all of these other things not matter? Like, I would love to know. Or these other dead people here don't matter.
Right. And I think what I need to understand is, like, Jill Stein and the guy we're talking about, it's as easy as a phone call, and it's just like, no, is it not really
right?
So they were like Reagan did it or whatever, and it's
that's
just
a
like,
white man, you're a white woman, honey.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna take you as seriously as a white man. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just like,
we gotta be real.
And yeah, we do have to be real about it. Like, I remember too, we can end too. I know we got to go. Soleil we were reading about, because we were just like, what is the relationship between the U.S. and Israel? I definitely,
they're allies, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend you looking at the Wikipedia page, because it just talks about all, like, the things that they provide for us and we provide for them. Like, it's just, we really are in bed, and the last thing
there
I'll
are
say,
allies. Like, this has been established for decades, right?
And the last thing I'll say, and we will continue this conversation, but, like, it was interesting hearing Dr. Butch Ware talk about Israel being created as a part of white supremacy, and, you know, that was, like, the purpose, or, like, you know, being closer to Western ideals. I don't know. That's kind of what he was saying. And he was saying that, like, Malcolm X talked about that, and
but what
James
was the
Baldwin.
point of this? What was the point of him saying that? Just basically like
us supporting them and them supporting us is a white supremacist. Like, that is, you know, how we're able to.
That's why I really want to talk
supremacy.
To someone, because I'm like, you know, free Palestine, ceasefire over here. But why is this our only talking point when we talk about genocide? I guess I'm just, like, curious about that, because I'm like, again, there's so many people, groups dramatic. Of people that, yes, there is. And it, like, that's it. Maybe that's why it's the sheer numbers. But we can look here and see that there's a disproportionate amount of numbers for here too. And so that's why I'm just like, why is these dead bodies in the U.S. with these specific vulnerable communities not matter to anybody? To the point where y'all would willingly not vote in their interest or vote at all.
I agree. But I do feel like there is a level of, you know, whole towns being taken out by a bomb.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are not living under that, right? Like, knock on wood, you know? So it's like, and just literally just being,
it's just interesting.
Like, you know, and I agree, Alexis,
because I'm like, y'all literally burned down the whole fucking toll, like the whole fucking black, what do they call it, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, like a whole community down, and that wasn't enough for some people to take their fucking votes off the table. But when it happened to black people, but now, and I'm not trying to make it a thing, but I'm just saying we have not lived in a time where hundreds of thousands of people are, you know, dying by bombs, but we've definitely seen white mobs tear down, burn down towns, forget real quick. But for some reason, that wasn't enough for your vote to get off the table.
What do you mean get your vote off the table?
Like, there are some people, like Julia was telling me, like, there are some people that we know who she's not even sure if they would vote because of Palestine. That they're like, well, I don't, you know, I like, you know, Kamala was a part of Biden's administration. The Democratic Party wants to see fire, but they're working more pragmatically with Israel, that they're not voting. And I'm like, why wasn't other communities' deaths, other towns getting demolished by white mobs and things like that, not enough throughout time for your vote to literally be off the table? Like, I will not vote. But the minute it's happening to other people in a different country, you are. And I'm not saying to not have empathy. Like I said, I want a complete ceasefire, and I think Israel should pay for every fucking thing they do. I think it is evil what they're doing, and it's an absolute genocide, and we should do whatever we can as Americans to help. But I'm saying, why is this such a... Why does not the other communities that are dying in America, you are willing to allow them to not get the vote and support that, you know, that your vote can that your actual vote can impact. You're willing, those people don't matter. Why don't they matter? It's not a question of why do the Palestinians matter. The question is more so, why don't the other people matter?
You love yourself.
Why don't
you matter?
Right. Why don't women matter to you? Why don't the Black community matter to you? Why don't immigrants matter to you? Why don't the LGBTQ matter to you? Why doesn't education and having a Department of Education matter to you? Why, I could just list a bunch of things.
Yes.
Why does all of those things matter
nuance,
less?
People.
To the point where you're not voting.
We have to live in the gray. Like, we have to.
And we should also take advantage of things we can control, which is those things I listed. We cannot, at the end of the day, control what the hell Netanyahu's doing in Israel. But we can absolutely directly control what's happening in the U.S.
And we gotta have, and my thing is just like, we got to have more just control of our energy. And it's just like, if
and
you're
then we gotta
really
wrap it up.
Yes. If we're gonna be like this, why? Like, okay, y'all better have that same energy,
but they don't, and they won't.
But I want them to. Like, I'm just like, maybe I'm not researching into like, programs and movements and activism and like the revolution happening around me. But
it just always goes this way. Let's think about with mass incarceration. There are plenty of white people.
People
who still voted for Democrat, like Bill Clinton, right? So that's what I'm just saying. It's like, I don't know. It's just irritating to me because I'm just like, it's just very. It's very interesting to me that like people are willing to not vote completely over something they might not have control over. And to me, if you care about Palestine, not voting is not a benefit to Palestine.
It's just
so it's actually like you're not doing anything to benefit. So I'm actually wondering if that's your actual cause,
right?
And
or do you just want to be different, or do you just
want to be moral superiority? I think like just being able to say, "Well, I just didn't do it." But regardless,
and it's just like okay, like yes, voting is very important, but honestly, checking off a box is so easy. And like, yes, I think
it shows a level of privilege to not do it, because I'm like, to you, the consequences of not voting and potentially the consequences that happen,
you're just like whatever.
You're like, I'll be fine. Rather than there are people who have higher stakes that cannot ever afford to not vote, and I think
it's just like, this isn't about
our ancestors, pretty much. Who like
this isn't about the entertainment. It's not about the TV and the discussion. It's about literally just doing that.
It's not about ego. It's about helping.
And then you get to fucking work.
Miguel always talks about how like he votes thinking about how he can help himself, but more importantly, people that don't have the privileges that he can in this country. It is wild to me that anyone who calls themselves an ally to the LGBTQ community, Black people, to women, that you would actively not do a vote in their best interest. And so to me, not voting because of some moral superiority complex when it comes to Palestine, and you're willing to throw away all those other people, all those other communities, is despicable. And also it doesn't help Palestine by not voting. And so I'm just like, it's just to me personally, it's a stupid thing to do. And to me personally, that's why I'm very interested and would love to maybe even bring somebody on here as to why that's like their only issue, and they're kind of okay with everything else happening. Because
we really could do more outside of just voting. Like, there's a lot we can do, okay?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, though. It's been an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes.
But it was a good discussion today, rich discussion. Feel free to email us ideas at whoamijudgepod@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok.
Everywhere you get your podcast.
And everywhere you get your podcast at Who Am I to Judge Pod. And
yes, y'all. We'll be next week, Lord.
Until next
everybody, time. Take care. We love y'all. Take deep breaths.
Right. Bye, friend. I sent you a text message.
Bye. I saw. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to email us your discussion topics at whoamitojudgepod@gmail.com. Also, remember to subscribe to Who Am I to Judge podcast on Spotify and everywhere you get your podcasts. If you love us, please rate us and review. And if you don't, leave us alone. Tell a friend to tell a friend. See y'all next week. Bye, friends.